Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're cracking open Jonathan T. Morgan's Foundations of Conflict Resolution. And look, we're tackling a universal pain point we literally all face: unresolved conflict. And more importantly, how it quietly, almost invisibly, just eats away at our trust. Because it's not about totally avoiding disagreements, right? It's actually about laying the groundwork so you can totally master them. We're going to take Morgan's psychological insights and transform them into a practical, step-by-step toolkit you can actually use. What is so fascinating about his whole approach is that it follows this inside-out arc. You see, you really can't fix the external argument without first digging in and fixing the internal mechanics of how you process it. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to quickly cover the impact of unresolved conflict, self-awareness and triggers, the art of effective communication, empathy and de-escalation, collaborative problem solving, and finally, personal boundaries. Let's jump right into section 1, the impact of unresolved conflict, or what we're calling the quiet erosion. So what actually happens when we just let our disagreements fester in the dark? We usually think, hey, avoiding an argument keeps the peace. But Morgan points out this fascinating phenomenon he calls the quiet erosion of trust and connection. It's like a leaky pipe. Over time, we become hesitant to share our vulnerabilities, and the entire foundation of the relationship just silently crumbles without us even realizing it's happening. And that avoidance, it triggers a really dangerous domino effect. It starts out small, with simple communication breakdowns, but then it's followed by the heavy emotional toll of hidden stress and anxiety. From there, it leads to this huge proliferation of misunderstandings, where minor, silly little disagreements totally snowball into these toxic environments. And ultimately, that just stifles all of our personal growth and innovation. All right, moving to section 2, self-awareness and emotional triggers. This is all about the internal shift. Because before we can fix the situation with someone else, we have to look inward. During a fight, our perception gets heavily filtered through cognitive biases. It's wild, but we literally fixate on negative details and completely ignore any positive evidence. We end up assigning these malicious motives to the other person, all while totally excusing our own actions as perfectly justified. Sound familiar? Now, there is a massive difference between reacting impulsively and responding with mindfulness. When one of your triggers is hit, reacting impulsively means letting your physical spikes, like that racing heartbeat or a clenching jaw, totally dictate your behavior. But mindfulness creates a gap. It gives you a crucial moment to take a breath, objectively observe that physical reaction, and consciously choose how you want to respond. Which brings us to section 3, the art of effective communication and bridging that divide. Once you're armed with that internal self-awareness, you can actually build a bridge to the other person. And look, active listening is not just politely waiting for your turn to speak. It's a highly active, intentional process. It means giving your undivided attention, maintaining solid eye contact, and using reflective responses like, okay, what I'm hearing is, when you ask open-ended questions and paraphrase their emotions back to them, you are building immediate, rock-solid emotional safety. If you find this analysis valuable, please like and subscribe to Knowledge Lighthouse to help us bring more truths to light. Okay. Let's head into section 4, empathy and de-escalation techniques. Because listen, no matter how incredibly mindful you are, conflicts are gonna escalate. It's just human nature. It usually starts as latent, which is that unseen, simmering tension in the room. Then it becomes perceived, where we start viewing each other as actual opponents. Next, it moves to felt, as the emotions really start to run hot. And finally, it hits manifest conflict, a full-on clash where rational thought is basically out the window. Our primary goal is to interrupt this whole cycle before it ever hits that final stage. So, to step back and actually break that cycle of escalation, one incredibly powerful tool is the I statement. Instead of aggressively saying, "You always do this," which just puts them on the defensive, try saying, "I feel frustrated when this happens." By expressing your own feelings without assigning blame, you instantly neutralize that defensiveness and practically invite empathy into the conversation. Moving on to section 5, collaborative problem solving, where we find the roots of the issue. Once the emotional fire is finally put out, we can get down to tackling the actual disagreement. But here's the kicker. There is a massive difference between what we think we're arguing about and what we are actually arguing about. You might genuinely think you're fighting over household chores or a specific work project, but often The underlying hidden issue is an unmet need for autonomy, a clash of deeper values, or even a subtle power struggle. You have got to solve that root issue, or the surface argument is just going to keep popping back up like a game of whack-a-mole. So, how do we actually do that? Well, it happens by shifting from a defensive me versus you mindset to a collaborative we approach. Together, you define the problem, generate ideas without judging them, combine them, and evaluate the pros and cons as a team. When both parties take real ownership of the process, it basically guarantees a sustainable win-win solution. And finally, Section 6, Empowerment through Personal Boundaries. True, lasting resolution absolutely does not mean having zero boundaries. In fact, it requires a deep, mutual respect for limits. Whether we're talking about physical space, emotional limits on what conversations are acceptable, intellectual boundaries that respect differing opinions, or material rules for shared possessions, clearly communicating these boundaries is not an act of rejection, guys. It is literally the ultimate act of self-care and conflict prevention. Mastering all of this definitely takes time, and there is so much more to uncover in Morgan's work. Having a physical reference guide to come back to when things get heated is incredibly valuable. For the complete deep dive, own the paperback. Get your high-quality paperback edition on Amazon via the link in the description. Add it to your collection today. Please share this video and check the description for more. But before we go, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. What if the conflicts you are avoiding right now are actually the exact conversations needed to save and deepen your relationships? The choice to step into that discomfort is entirely yours.